The retirement drop. Why you feel off. Your first year, and how to fix it. Diane spent almost 30 years as a nurse. When she finally retired, she expected relief. Instead, within a few months, she felt drained in a completely different way. Foggy, flat, tired in a way sleep didn't fix. She assumed something was medically wrong, so she went in for tests. Everything came back normal. It wasn't until a conversation with a former colleague that she understood what was actually happening to her. If you've retired in the last year and something feels off, not depression exactly, but a fog, a flatness, a sense that you should be happier than you are, you're not broken. There's a name for what Diane was going through. It's called the retirement drop. And the reason almost nobody talks about it is simple. Most people don't know it has a name. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it happens, and the handful of things that reverse it faster than anything else. Here's what the retirement drop tends to look like. A kind of brain fog that wasn't there before. A flatness, where things that once brought joy barely register. Restlessness or heaviness that makes ordinary tasks feel like more effort than they should. And a quiet guilt underneath it all. The sense that you should be grateful. So why aren't you happier? If any of that sounds familiar, you're far from alone. Now let's talk about why it happens. For decades, retirement was sold as the reward at the end of the race. No more alarm clocks, no more deadlines, endless time for whatever you want. And for many people, in small doses, that really is wonderful. But somewhere between month 2 and month 8, a surprising number of retirees start feeling worse instead of better. Not because the freedom isn't real, but because freedom in unlimited amounts behaves very differently than we expect. The first hidden reason is the loss of routine. The human brain, especially as it ages, relies heavily on predictable rhythm. Research from the National Institute on Aging points to structure and daily engagement as meaningful factors in cognitive and emotional well-being in older adults. Your morning commute, your coffee break, your lunch with coworkers. These weren't just tasks. They were invisible anchors, quietly organizing your day. When retirement removes all of that at once, it doesn't just empty your calendar. It removes scaffolding your mind was leaning on without you ever realizing it was there. But routine loss isn't the biggest piece of this. There's something deeper. And this next part is the most important thing you'll hear in this video. It isn't money. Most people who feel this way are financially stable. It isn't age, because this happens just as often at 62 as it does at 82. The biggest hidden factor is identity. Think about everything your work quietly gave you without you ever noticing. Purpose each morning. A place you belonged. Goals to move toward. Recognition when you did something well. Daily progress you could measure. And constant casual social contact. The coworker who asked about your weekend. The shared jokes. The daily hellos. For most people, work wasn't just a paycheck. It was an entire identity delivery system, running quietly in the background for 30 or 40 years. Retirement can take all of it away in a single week. The American Psychological Association has described retirement as one of life's major identity transitions, right alongside marriage or the birth of a child. That's precisely because so much of adult identity gets built around a career role. Most people prepare financially for retirement for decades, and prepare emotionally for it almost not at all. Consider a man we'll call Robert, a retired engineer who spent 38 years solving problems and leading teams. He imagined retirement as endless golf and finally reading the books stacked on his nightstand. For a few weeks, it was wonderful. Then the golf games slowed down. He found himself finishing the newspaper by 9 in the morning with nothing left to look forward to. He wasn't sad exactly. He was foggy, unmotivated. He started quietly wondering who he even was, without the title, the badge, the Monday morning meetings. What eventually helped Robert wasn't a bigger vacation or a new hobby. It was an email from his old company asking if he'd be willing to mentor 2 junior engineers once a week over coffee. He almost said no. He said yes instead. Within a couple of months, he noticed the fog lifting on the mornings he had that meeting to prepare for. It wasn't the coffee. It was having something and someone that needed him again. Now, if identity is such a big piece of this, why doesn't simply picking up a hobby solve it? Fair question. Hobbies help, but only when they replace what work was truly providing, not just the free time it used to fill. A puzzle by yourself doesn't restore belonging. A solo project in the garage doesn't restore recognition. Purpose has to be rebuilt deliberately, piece by piece. And that's exactly what we're about to walk through. Before we get to that, here's the good news, and it matters more than anything we've covered so far. This is temporary. The retirement drop isn't a medical diagnosis, and you won't hear a doctor use this exact term on a chart. But it describes something real. It's a pattern psychologists and researchers studying aging and retirement transitions have observed again and again, a temporary dip in motivation, mood, and clarity, while the brain adjusts to one of the biggest life changes a person ever goes through. It tends to be most intense in that first year, precisely because that's when the old structure has vanished, but a new one hasn't been built yet. This matters just as much whether you retired last month or 18 months ago, whether you're recently widowed and adjusting on your own, or whether you and your spouse retired together and are still finding your footing side by side. It also matters if you're not quite retired yet, but can already feel this coming, because knowing what to expect ahead of time changes how you experience it. If routine, identity, and connection are what got quietly pulled away, then rebuilding those same 3 things is what brings you back. Not through dramatic change, through small, deliberate steps. And here are the ones that matter most. The first is your mornings. A predictable morning routine, waking at a consistent time, coffee, a short walk outside, gives your brain the structure it's been missing. This one habit alone does more to lift fog and stabilize mood than almost anything else, partly because it also gets you moving and into daylight, both of which the CDC links to better mood and sharper thinking in older adults. It doesn't need to be elaborate. The same 3 or 4 anchors in the same order most days of the week are enough to give your brain the "what comes next" signal it used to get from work. The second is rebuilding identity through contribution, not just activity. Volunteering, mentoring someone younger in your field, teaching a skill you spent a lifetime mastering. These restore the purpose and recognition that work once provided. It isn't about staying busy. It's about staying meaningful to someone else. This is exactly what Diane discovered. She started spending 2 mornings a week at the hospital's volunteer desk, guiding anxious families to the right floor. Within a month, the fog she'd gone to the doctor about had noticeably lifted, not because anything medical had changed, but because she was needed again. The third is regular social rhythm. Not occasional get-togethers, but something consistent. A weekly walking group, a recurring class at the library, a standing coffee date. Work used to hand you dozens of small conversations a day without any effort on your part. Without it, many retirees go entire days speaking only briefly to a spouse, or not at all. That quiet drop in daily conversation is one of the most overlooked pieces of this whole picture. The brain responds to reliable connection far more than to occasional connection. That's why even one standing weekly commitment can make a real difference. The fourth is giving yourself something to look forward to, A small weekly goal, a class, a project, a visit with grandchildren to prepare for. This matters more than it sounds like it should, because the brain's reward system runs on anticipation and small wins. When goals and achievements become less frequent, that system quiets down along with them. Progress, even in tiny amounts, helps restore that sense of forward motion, and it counters the low-grade decision fatigue that comes from having to invent your entire day from scratch every single day. And one more worth naming: hold on to at least one responsibility that depends on you. A grandchild you pick up from school, a neighbor who counts on your help, a role at your place of worship, a community garden plot that needs tending. It doesn't need to be large or official. What matters is that someone or something is genuinely counting on you, on a schedule, whether you feel like showing up or not. Being needed in that concrete, ongoing way is one of the strongest protections against the flatness so many retirees describe, because it's very hard to feel purposeless when someone is waiting on you at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. If you're married or partnered, there's something worth knowing here too. Couples often assume retirement will be easier together, and sometimes it is. But two people who spent decades apart during the workday can suddenly find themselves together all day, each quietly moving through their own version of this shift, without the words to explain it to each other. Sometimes one spouse retires a year or two before the other, and the one still working can't quite understand why. Their partner, who finally has everything, seems more withdrawn instead of more relaxed. And if you've taken on caregiving for a spouse or a parent in this new chapter, this can layer on top of an already full plate, making it even more important to protect at least a sliver of routine and connection that belongs to you alone. Naming all of this together, out loud, as a shared and recognizable pattern rather than a personal failing, can change everything about how you move through it as a team. Here is the encouraging truth in all of this. None of these causes are permanent, and none of them means something is wrong with you. What feels like fog, low motivation, or a strange sense of not knowing who you are without the role you used to hold, this is one of the most common, least discussed transitions in later life. And it is absolutely reversible once you understand what's happening and take small, steady steps toward rebuilding routine, identity, and connection. Think back to Diane for a moment. She didn't overhaul her life. She didn't need a 5-year plan or a dramatic reinvention. She added 2 mornings a week at a volunteer desk, and within weeks, the fog she'd gone to a doctor about had lifted on its own. Robert didn't need a new life purpose handed to him from nowhere. He said yes to 1 email, 1 weekly coffee with 2 junior engineers, and that was enough to give his mornings meaning again. That's really the whole secret here. Small, specific, repeatable pieces of routine, identity, and connection put back one at a time. Retirement doesn't have to be the end of purpose. For so many people, once they move through this adjustment, it becomes one of the richest, most meaningful chapters of their entire life. Not despite the free time, but because they finally learned how to fill it in a way that fits who they really are. If this helped you understand something you've been feeling but couldn't quite name, consider subscribing. We'll keep exploring evidence-based ways to age with purpose, independence, and vitality, one honest conversation at a time.